small bird with a very big voice. The wren is regarded one of our most common birds here in the UK and also one of our smallest. It lives a very different lifestyle to the majority of other birds. Spends a lot of its time low down in the undergrowth, darting from place to place searching for food. And therein lies the challenge with this small bird, and it is a big challenge, and that is to find it, get it into a position where you can photograph it. So join me on the challenge of photographing the wren, the smallest bird, or one of the smallest birds here in the UK. So what we'll do is we will look at how to identify the wren, we'll look at its habitat, the type of areas that it frequents, we'll look at some of its behaviour and lifestyle. I'll share with you my approach to photographing the wren, and I'll share some top tips with you along the way. Plus I'll also share with you a real bonus tip which has improved both my bird identification and my bird song recognition. I'm going to start off with my first top tip, and that is to photograph them in the springtime. Springtime is the best time of year to photograph the wren. They're at the best because what they're actually doing at the beginning of the springtime is they're looking to find new territories. They're most vocal, and the call of the wren is so important to photographing it, and I'm going to keep emphasising that, and I'm sorry if I repeat myself, it's so important. It's a small bird with a very big voice, but you need to be able to recognise its call. So that they're most vocal, and it's the busiest time of year for them as they are searching and building for nests, and again I'll talk about that specifically later in the video. So how do we actually recognise the wren? Well, the wren is a very small dumpy brown bird. It's only slightly bigger than the goldcrest being Europe's smallest bird. I did a previous video on the goldcrest, and I thought that was challenging to photograph the goldcrest. Boy, is the wren just as challenging, and I'll leave a link to that video at the end. So how do we actually recognise the wren? Well, the wren has got long legs for the size of the bird, it's got short stubby wings, it's got a very fine bill which it needs to find the very small insects that it feeds on in the habitat that they live in, and it has a very small narrow tail which often points vertically. To the naked eye it's pretty much impossible to be able to tell the difference between a male and a female wren. However, there are a number of characteristics that the wren have which allows you to be able to differentiate whether it's a male or a female, and I'll talk about one or two of those differentials during the video. More often than not, you're actually going to hear a wren. In fact, I can hear one now. I hope it comes across in the video. More often than not, you're going to hear a wren before you actually see it. And that is so important to actually getting close to them and photographing them. And I said I'd emphasise it, and I really am. Size for size, the wren has one of the loudest calls of any bird in the UK. Being able to identify that call, as I've said, is critical for you to get nearer to the wren in order to photograph it. The wren has what I would say are two distinct calls, and I'm going to go through each of them with you now. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to look at and listen to two calls that come from the wren. Firstly, the song. This is a mixture of high-pitched whistles with a rattle at the end, and here it is now. Secondly, we have the call. It's more like a contact call, alarm call, and that's a series of short taps, and here it is now. In general, when it comes to the calling, males tend to be louder and show off, and you'll see that when it comes to getting opportunities to photograph them, it's when you see a male perched calling out his song, and this is the time of the year, and I'll demonstrate that to you in some of the videos that you'll see. Females, on the other hand, they tend to use the calls only as a means of communication. Can't emphasize enough how important it is to know the call of the wren so that you can get nearer to it to photograph it. Okay, now we come to the bonus call, or the bonus tip. For the bonus tip, you're going to have a mobile phone. And the reason for that is it's known as the Merlin app. It's a completely free app that will let you both identify birds by photographs and also by sound. This has improved my knowledge of bird song and bird calls immensely. It's completely free, and all you do is you turn it on, hold it up, and any birds that are in the area, Merlin will pick up and be able to identify. It's not going to get it right 100% of the time, but I would suggest probably it's in the 99 point something percentage of the time that Merlin app will get the call right. So the bonus tip, it's all about birdsong when it comes to the wren, is get the Merlin app. Okay, I've just turned the Merlin app on now from where I'm standing, and it is identified, and I hope this can come across in the video. Chiff chaff, the wren, song thrush, and also a tree creeper. So I know that those birds are in this area. Great app, completely free, fantastic aid if you're a bird photographer or a bird watcher. Okay, when it comes to the wren's habitat, where you're going to find them, you can find them virtually anywhere in the UK. Probably the only area that you're not going to get them is in high mountainous areas. But the wren is considered to be one of the most common birds in the UK, so you'll find them literally everywhere. In fact, its Latin name, troglodytes, if I pronounced it correctly, means cave dweller. And that's really comes from the fact that the wren spends a lot of its time in and outs of nooks and crannies, wood piles, hedgerows, bushes, searching for food. Some of the wren's favourite areas for searching for food are searching in, as I said, nooks and crannies, low-lying scrubland, hedges and wood piles. That's where they're going to go to search for food, and that's where you're going to find them. When it comes to the wren's diet, wrens feed mainly on tiny invertebrates including beetles, spiders. They'll also eat seeds and they'll eat larvae. When you're actually watching the wren going about its business and it's hunting for food, it uses that very small tiny bill to get into the little nooks and crannies that it's after. And as you're doing that, it will only prove to you how difficult it can be to get a good clear shot of the wren, as I'm sure you'll see throughout the video. But we are going to find them and we are going to photograph them. The next top tip is to do with perches. Wrens, especially the males at this time of the year, they love nothing more than sitting atop of a perch to actually sing out, to try and attack a female so they can set up a territory, build their nests and breed. If you can find such a perch, you need to be patient, you need to be quiet, and what you need to do is you need to give the wren time to reappear on that perch to photograph it. Remember to also think about the background. The habitat that the wren lives in is a really messy type habitat. Hedgerows, thickets, brambles. So try and get yourself into a position where you've got a perch, where you've got a good clean background to get the photograph that you're after. When it comes to the wren's behaviour, I've often said, and I hope I don't keep repeating myself in the videos that I do, that I truly believe it's so important as a wildlife photographer, as a bird photographer, that you understand your subject's behaviour and its lifestyle. Understanding their behaviour, understanding their lifestyle is going to get you closer to your subject to actually photograph it. And that's certainly the case with the wren. The wren has a quite unique nesting behaviour. What a wren will do, or what the male wren will do, it will often build up to 6 nests in its territory once it's established a territory, and then what it wants to then do is show those nests off to a female. Now the nest of the wren is unique in as much as it's a domed nest. Now, as far as I'm aware, there are only 4 other birds, well, there's a total of 4 birds, including the wren, that build domed nests in the UK. That's the dipper, the long-tailed tit, and the house martin. Now, once the wren has built the nests, he starts singing in his territory. Remember about getting up into his perches, he's singing, he's trying to bring the females in. The females will come in, and what he will then do is he will show off those nests, a bit like an estate agent trying to sell a house. He's trying to sell that nest to the female. If the female's interested, what the female will then do is she will then start lining that nest with feathers and lichen, and then they'll breed and then lay the eggs, hatch the young, and take them to brood. So you need to understand the wren's behaviour, especially around the nest building. When it comes to photographing a wren, I've said it before and I'll say it again, when you're photographing wildlife, and birds in particular, it's not easy. It's not like photographing people. With people, you can position them, you can pose them, you can move them into a position so that you've got the best angle, you've got the best light, you've got the best background, and you can control everything. That's simply not going to happen with wildlife, especially birds and especially with the wren. So, my basic camera settings that I will set are firstly AFC continuous or servo and Canon. I shoot with the Canon R5 and an RF 100 to 500. I'll set it to the highest frame rate, and the reason I want the highest frame rate is so that I'm going to be taking lots of bursts, remembering that the wren hardly sits still anywhere, it's always moving. So high frame rate, lots of bursts. And then I also set it to spot AF for my focus, and I'll talk a little bit of that in detail in a moment or two. My next top tip is spot AF, as I've just mentioned in photography. Spot AF. Due to the habitat that the wren lives in, we've seen it, hedgerows, scrubland, wood piles, etc. The background and the foreground is very busy. Now, if you were to use a group autofocus option, what could happen is that the autofocus would jump to the background, it might jump to a twig, jump to a piece of grass. What happens with Spot AF is that Spot AF is the central autofocus point on your camera's autofocus system, and it's a small spot. So the aim is to get that spot onto the bird, keep it on the bird. That should get you more shots in focus, and by using the high frame rate, taking bursts of shots, as long as you keep that Spot AF on your bird, you'll get more images of the wren in focus. So top tip, use Spot AF. My final top tip is to do with the shutter speed. As we've seen, the way that the wren moves around in its habitat, small birds, and they're very fast. So accordingly, you're going to have to set your shutter speed in order to freeze the motion of that wren. Normally, you're only going to get a small window as the wren's darting and moving around. Then all of a sudden it will stop and may then start singing. That's when you're going to get your static shots. You need a high frame rate. My go-to settings, this is my go-to settings, it will all depend on the light, but my go-to settings for photographing small birds in general, so the wren falls into that category, is an aperture of f7.1, which is the widest on this RF 100 to 500, shutter speed of 1/1000th of a second, and I always shoot in auto ISO. So I'm looking at a starting shutter speed of 1/1000th of a second when I'm photographing a wren. This is typical wren habitat. Low-lying scrubland, hedgerows, wood piles, all the sorts of places, little nooks and crannies where the wren can get in, where it's searching for its food. And it's a very difficult habitat to photograph in. But I do have a certain approach which I'd like to share with you. Okay, what I want to do now is just take you through or demonstrate to you my approach to photographing a wren. And it's basically a 3-step approach. Step 1 is recognising the voice or the song or the call of the wren. Step 2 is to just stop, take your time, keep listening, try to focus in on where that call or that song's coming from. Try and get a little bit closer, and again then just stop and wait. The reason you're waiting is that bird at some time is going to appear, and what you're looking for is little darting movements. That you probably see them out the corner of your eye, and that's the wren moving around in the habitat, the hedgerow, the bramble, or wherever it is, and you're just watching for it. And that's going to then give you an indication of where that bird is. Okay, what I want to do now is just leave you with some of my favourite images of the wren, and I hope that you enjoy them. Okay, thanks for watching this edition of Kevin Hatley Photography and how to photograph one of the UK's smallest birds, the wren. And I'm sure that you can see from the video just how big a challenge for such a small bird it is to get close to them and photograph them. All that I would ask is that if you've liked it, could you hit the like button? Could I also ask you to subscribe to my channel, Kevin Hatley Photography. It's completely free, doesn't cost anything, and what it does is it allows me to grow the channel, and it allows me to do what I love to do most, and that is get out here into the countryside, photograph the wildlife, especially birds, and share that knowledge and experience with other people. So until the next time, stay safe, take care, and I hope to see you soon. Bye for now.